April Fool's Day, a day marked by lighthearted pranks and playful tricks, sometimes takes a dark turn. For some, this seemingly innocent day has transformed into a nightmare, forever altering their lives. Here are 3 chilling tales of April Fool's pranks gone horrifyingly wrong, recounted by those who experienced them firsthand. The Babysitter. It was April 1st, 2012. I was 19 and babysitting for the Robinsons, a family that lived a few blocks from my house. They had a 6-year-old daughter, Emily, and an 8-year-old son, Jake. The kids were easy to manage, and the Robinsons always paid well, so I looked forward to these gigs. That night, after the kids were in bed, I settled in the living room with a book. Around 10 p.m., I received a text from Mrs. Robinson. It read, "Emily has been complaining about noises in her closet. Can you check on her?" I found it odd since Emily had gone to bed without a fuss, but I didn't think much of it. I walked upstairs and opened Emily's door quietly. She was sound asleep. I tiptoed to her closet and opened the door, expecting to find a pile of toys or clothes. But the closet was empty. Just as I turned to leave, I heard a whisper, "Help me." I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I quickly closed the closet door and looked at Emily. She was still asleep. I rushed out of the room and texted Mrs. Robinson back, saying everything was fine. She responded immediately, "Gotcha, April Fools." I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. It was a prank, a stupid prank. I laughed it off and returned to my book, though I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. About half an hour later, I heard a noise from upstairs. It sounded like footsteps. I told myself it was just the house settling, but then I heard it again, louder this time. I decided to check on the kids once more. As I reached the top of the stairs, I noticed Emily's door was ajar. I peeked inside and saw her bed was empty. Panic set in. I rushed to Jake's room. He was also gone. I was about to call the Robinsons when my phone buzzed. It was a picture message. With trembling hands, I opened it. The image showed Emily and Jake tied up and gagged in the basement. The caption read, "Help us." My blood ran cold. This couldn't be a joke anymore. I dialed 911 and explained the situation. The dispatcher stayed on the line with me as I carefully made my way to the basement. The door creaked open and I flicked on the light. There in the corner were Emily and Jake, just as in the picture. I rushed to untie them and they clung to me, sobbing. I could hear the police sirens approaching. As they arrived, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. The police investigated and found signs of forced entry. Whoever had done this was still out there. They never caught the perpetrator, but the Robinsons moved away shortly after, and I stopped babysitting altogether. April Fool's Day lost its charm that night, becoming a reminder of how easily a harmless prank can spiral into a nightmare. The Office Prank. April Fool's Day, 2015. Our office was known for its elaborate pranks, and this year, the bar was set high. We worked in a marketing firm, and our boss, Mr. Thompson, had a reputation for being a good sport. Every year, he'd play along with whatever tricks we had up our sleeves. But this year, someone decided to take it a step too far. I arrived at work to find the office buzzing with excitement. There were fake spiders in the break room, whoopee cushions on chairs, and the classic "kick me" signs taped to unsuspecting backs. It was all in good fun until we got an email from an anonymous sender. The email read, "This year's prank will be unforgettable. Wait until noon." No one knew who sent it, but we were all intrigued. Noon came, and as we gathered in the conference room for a scheduled meeting, the lights suddenly went out. There was a moment of silence, followed by nervous laughter. Then, a message appeared on the projector screen. "There's a bomb in the building. You have 10 minutes to evacuate." Panic erupted. We scrambled for the exits, tripping over each other in our haste. Outside, we huddled together, some of us crying, others frantically calling loved ones. The police arrived within minutes, cordoning off the area and searching the building. It felt like an eternity before they gave the all-clear. As it turned out, there was no bomb. It was a cruel prank, meant to scare us. The police traced the email to one of our own, a disgruntled employee named Mark who had been recently fired. He was arrested, but the damage was done. The sense of safety we once had in our workplace was shattered. Mr. Thompson called us into a meeting the next day. He looked more serious than I'd ever seen him. "April Fool's Day is supposed to be fun," he said, "but what happened yesterday was far from it. We need to remember that our actions have consequences." The office atmosphere changed after that. The prank stopped and a somber mood settled over us. We all learned a harsh lesson that day about the fine line between a joke and a threat. April Fool's Day was never the same. The Haunted House, April Fool's Day, 2018. My friends and I decided to visit an abandoned house on the outskirts of town. It was a local legend, said to be haunted by the ghost of a woman who died there decades ago. We thought it would be fun to scare ourselves a bit, maybe pull a few pranks on each other. We had no idea what we were in for. We arrived at the house just as the sun was setting. It looked like something out of a horror movie. Broken windows, overgrown weeds, and an eerie silence that hung in the air. Armed with flashlights and a sense of bravado, we ventured inside. The interior was just as creepy as the exterior. Dust-covered furniture, peeling wallpaper, and the faint smell of mildew filled the air. We split up to explore, calling out to each other and making spooky noises. It was all in good fun until we heard a scream. We rushed to find our friend Lisa, who was standing in the attic, pale and shaking. She pointed to a corner where we saw a figure, a woman in a tattered dress, her eyes hollow and dark. She moved towards us with an unnatural gait, and we bolted down the stairs, our hearts racing. We regrouped outside, trying to rationalize what we had seen. Was it a prank? Had someone else come to the house to scare us? But Lisa insisted that what she saw was real. Her fear was palpable, and it made us all uneasy. We decided to leave, but as we walked back to our cars, we heard footsteps behind us. We turned around to see the same figure standing at the edge of the property, watching us. We didn't stick around to find out more. We jumped into our cars and sped away, The image of that ghostly woman burned into our minds. Over the next few days, strange things started happening. Objects in our homes would move on their own. We heard whispers in the night, and we all had the same recurring nightmare of the woman in the house. It felt like she had followed us. We did some research and discovered that the house had indeed been the site of a gruesome murder. The woman, named Margaret, had been killed by her husband, who then took his own life. Ever since, people claimed to have seen her ghost, seeking vengeance. We decided to go back one last time, hoping to find some closure. We brought flowers and candles, intending to make peace with Margaret's spirit. As we laid the flowers in the attic, we felt a sudden chill, and the candles flickered out. But then, we heard a whisper, "Thank you." We left the house, feeling a strange sense of relief. The nightmares stopped, and the strange occurrences ceased. We never spoke of that night again, but every April Fool's Day, we remember the haunting experience that turned a simple prank into a terrifying ordeal. April Fool's Day is meant to be a day of laughter and harmless fun, but these stories remind us that not all pranks end well. The line between humor and horror is thin, and when crossed, the consequences can be devastating. These tales serve as a stark warning to think twice before planning your next April Fool's prank, for what starts as a joke can quickly become a nightmare.